Hello, I'm Minda Burr, and I'm your Master Talent Teacher Writing Coach. This is the second in a three-part series of how to create great characters for the stage and screen. And today we're going to be focused on comedy. And if you recall in our last video, we talked about how every great character has to have a strong want. And then they have to deal with all these obstacles in the way of them achieving their goal. And they also have to have distinct personality traits, a combination of strengths and weaknesses as well as flaws and quirks. And this is also true of comedy, only it's more exaggerated, especially the conflict part. Basically, there are three areas of conflict that can add more humor to your story. The first one is the character's conflict with his circumstances or the world of the story. The second is the character's conflict with other characters. And the third one is the character's conflict with himself. And I think one movie that exemplified all of those areas was The Hangover. It was so beautifully written and structured by John Lucas and Scott Moore, and they wrote some very well-defined characters with wonderful strengths and weaknesses and quirks. And combined with their circumstances, their outrageous circumstances, they took us on one very funny ride. So let's break down some of the characters. First, there's Doug, played by Justin Bartha, who's really the only solid guy in the movie. And he's surrounded by all of his dysfunctional friends. So of course he's the one that gets lost in Vegas, and they all have to band together for their big want, which is to find Doug before the wedding. And then there's Alan, Doug's lovable loser of a future brother-in-law, brilliantly played by Zach Galifianakis. He's the oddball fish out of water character that's in sharp contrast to all the cooler friends of Doug's. But of course, all Alan wants is to belong. He just wants to love and be loved. And that's why he puts what he thinks is ecstasy into their drinks when they make a toast before they go out on the town. But of course it ends up being roofies, which creates major havoc, and it takes the entire movie to resolve. And then we have the cool, handsome bad boy teacher Phil, embodied to perfection by Bradley Cooper, who is of course the exact opposite of Alan. And here's a big tip for you. Pairing opposites creates great comedic tension between characters. A perfect example of that is the neat freak, obsessive compulsive Felix opposite the slob, the total slob Oscar in The Odd Couple. And then there's Stu, the dutiful dentist who has absolutely no self-esteem left after living with his ball-busting bitchy girlfriend Melissa. This woman is one of the great all-time nemesis in movie history, and every good comedy needs a great nemesis, and The Hangover has several. The very first thing that Melissa says to him as he's packing to go to Vegas is, "Don't forget your road game, and don't forget to use it." So in the roofie-induced night of debauchery, when Stu marries the stripper slash hooker in the Heather Graham character, he's much more horrified that Melissa's going to kill him than he is at the fact that he pulled out his own tooth to prove he's a good dentist. So here's another big tip. When a character does something that's out of character and something we don't expect at all, that's a great comedy booster. One of my favorite characters is Sid, Doug's future father-in-law, played by Jeffrey Tambor. When he hands Doug the keys to his prized Mercedes, he says with a wink, "Whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Except for herpes. That shit will come home with you." So here's another big tip. Humor can be enhanced by taking old phrases or euphemisms or even societal standards and adding an odd or off-color twist to it. So it was brilliant how they cut from the toast on the roof before their night on the town to the very next morning. And everybody wakes up with this horrible hangover, and their $4,000 suite is in shambles. Stu's front tooth is missing. There's a tiger in the bathroom. There's a baby in the closet. Doug's mattress is missing, and so is Doug. And nobody can remember anything that happened the night before. So we have the pleasure of following them as they go from one clue to the other to find Doug. Where's Doug? And they have to deal with one obstacle after another, as well as interact with one nemesis after another in search of their goal. Remember that a humorous character is just a normal character that expresses his personality or quirks in an exaggerated way. In The Hangover, we meet the sleazy but enthusiastic minister at the wedding chapel. We've got the sadistic police officer who forces these kids to taser all of them because they stole his police car. And then of course we have Mike Tyson, who's going to beat the crap out of them if they don't bring his tiger back. Just watching them get that tiger out of the bathroom and back to Mike Tyson was hilarious. Another tip, creating predicaments that look impossible to solve and then coming up with some harebrained solution that does or doesn't work is often very funny to watch. Another tip, always look for ways to make an embarrassing scene more cringeworthy, unique, or bizarre. And of course there are several moments like that in The Hangover. One of the funniest is when they think they hear Doug in the trunk of their car, but when they go to open it, out pops Mr. Chow, who's naked as a jaybird except for his socks, and he starts beating them over the head with a tire iron and then runs away bare-assed until he returns later to get his $80,000 they stole from him. So ultimately, they have to work harder to solve the mystery, which of course bonds them closer and actually helps them grow as human beings. Stu ends up breaking up with his bitch of a girlfriend Melissa at the wedding with, "You're just a bad person." And the audience cheers. And Phil is thrilled to see his wife and his child, and he scoops them up in his arms. And Alan is able to sing a very happy song to his friends. Because as we know, comedies always have happy endings. Well, that's it for today. If you'd like more information about my writing mastermind groups or my private coaching, all the information is right there. And until next time, here's wishing you a beautiful day.